Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show, episode number 32. Thank you again for liking and subscribing to us on YouTube, listening on your iPad to iTunes, or listening on Google Play. Glad to have this man back. He's a great friend of mine. He's one of the greatest jockeys of all time, the Hall of Famer, and also an analyst for Fox Sports. You probably saw him on the Travers over the weekend. He is Gary Stevens. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Kenny. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it was great to see you, by the way, on the Fox broadcast. You know, I miss working with you, but it was it was a great job as always, and a big day as always, Travers Day.
Yeah, it was a huge day, 6 grade ones, and just an epic day. Beautiful weather, great crowd, and great racing.
And we have an impressive winner in Code of Honor, a horse that Shug McGahee, the trainer, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago talking about him, was pointed towards this race. And with that impressive showing, I guess this kind of makes it really interesting the rest of the way out on the 3-year-old scene.
Yeah, and in my view, and I know some people will disagree, they've still got Maximum Security up at the top, but I think with that performance over the weekend and the field that he beat and the way with authority he did it in and the style that he did it in my books, at least, he moves to the leaderboard right now on top. And he was so impressive. And Shug, leading up to the race, he had that quiet confidence. You could kind of read between the lines. Shug, not a braggart at all, just good old boy. And when we interviewed him midweek, he talked about his workout leading up to it and kind of had that smirk on his face. And I commented afterwards, I said, that's about as much bragging and confidence as you're going to get out of Shug McGahee. But I said that little smirk said a lot right there. And man, did it ever with the way he showed up. And great ride by Johnny Velasquez. He always shows up on the big days. He's had a great year, and he stuck with this colt, believed in him. And, him being a late foal and everything, he's just now coming into his own. And Shug talking about the possibility of running him back in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. He's given himself a couple of options to get himself up to the Breeders' Cup if that's the route that he chooses.
And you hope one day, in some fashion, maybe it'll take all the way to the Breeders' Cup, that Maximum Security meets up with Code of Honor and the rest of the really good, well, whatever's left of the really good 3-year-olds this year.
Yeah, and I guess a few of the horses, Maximum Security being one, pointing for the Pennsylvania Derby. It's a big race now on the calendar for the 3-year-olds. Might see a game winner show up there. He obviously was pointed for the Travers and got the virus and wasn't able to run, but I'd imagine Bob Baffert looking at that pretty hard as well.
Baffert just shows up and gets a piece of it, though, doesn't he? Mucho Gusto coming in third?
Yeah, he ran a great race. Talamo gave him a great ride. He said publicly he's not his best 3-year-old, but he's a good one, and he shows up and he runs hard every time.
We talked to Brad Cox last week, who had Owendale, of course, but leading up to the Travers, and he likened this. He thought it was probably the best 3-year-old field since the Kentucky Derby, Gary, that gathered over the weekend at Saratoga for the Travers.
Yeah, I think so. With Tacitus being in there, and now Tacitus against Code of Honor. He's beaten him both times they faced each other, and Bill Mott, he's talking about the Jockey Club Gold Cup as well as his next target. So that will be them facing older horses for the first time. But I think we've got a great crop of 3-year-olds this year. They've mixed it up, matched it up, and traded punches. And I'm looking forward to, seeing all of those horses matching up against Maximum Security once again.
Well, we talked about, you mentioned Johnny Velasquez coming to the occasion in a big race. So, too, won Gary Stevens in big races. He was always there, Derbies and Preakness, Belmont, Breeders' Cup, whatever the case. You are always in those big races. What's it like with you when you have a 3-year-old that's pretty good and you're testing him against older horses? Is there a little more excitement about that? Let's see if this is the real deal for you and for the trainer, everybody involved when that happens.
I always had a pretty good idea if they could match up with older horses, because I was usually riding a good older horse and knew what it was going to take to be able to compete with the older horses. So I kind of had a good guideline to go by, and we weren't wrong too often stepping up, whether they were ready for it or not. And most of the guys that I was riding for, they knew when they could match up. Bob Baffert, he already knows which ones are going to be able to run with the older horses, because most of them have been working with some older horses throughout this whole springtime and summer, because he didn't have other 3-year-olds that could match up to his top horses. So you see that a lot with Chad Brown as well, working, colts against fillies and fillies against the colts, and older horses. So you've got a pretty good radar on what picture of what they can be able to compete, what level.
Talking with the Hall of Fame jockey Gary Stevens, analyst for the Fox Network now. Had the pleasure of working with him for many years at NBC, and we've known each other. I don't even know. We were kids, Gary, when we met.
Yeah, we were. It's got to be over 30-some years.
Yeah, we were little bitty kids, by the way. We want to clear that up. We were really young.
I went back and watched, some races over the weekend. I had to talk about the 1995 Travers on Thunder Gulch, and went back and watched that race. They had the full telecast on, and I was looking. I said, "Man, I was a baby." And and then in the 2001 Travers on Thunder Gulch's son, Point Given, winning the Travers, and it was amazing to watch those races. I had almost identical trips on both of them. Thunder Gulch, he got left at the start. He kind of the assistant starter forgot to turn him loose, and he reared at the start, and I had this look of panic on my face, and he got right back in the race, laying fourth, circled the field, and came home strong to win it. And then the exact same thing with Point Given in 2001. He got cantankerous in the starting gate, got himself left a little bit, and then I got the exact same trip that I got on his daddy 6 years earlier. So it was a lot of fun going back and watching those races.
I love to watch the old race. I like to watch the old sports stuff. I'll watch if this have clips of an old ball game or something. I enjoy that. And the same with the races, and the same with the Travers. I mean, there's just something about that race, isn't there? If you can't win one of the Triple Crowns along the way, and before you've done them both, you've won Triple Crown races and that. But there's something about that Midsummer Derby to me that's always exciting.
Well, it's a decision maker a lot of time for the 3-year-old championship. If it's close, who's going to win the championship. And that year with Point Given in 2001, we get beat as a favorite in the Kentucky Derby, come back, win the Preakness, the Belmont, the Haskell. But winning the Midsummer Derby, the Travers, that was kind of our Triple Crown, winning the Preakness, the Belmont, and then the Travers. I felt like he really showed his stuff, and he went on to be champion and horse of the year.
And the atmosphere at Saratoga, for people that haven't been there, it's kind of hard to explain. It's the racing, but you got the picnic crowd, and they're hanging out at the trees, and people have seen it. Maybe they watched the Fox telecast with you over the weekend. There's an atmosphere like it that I'm not sure any other track has that kind of atmosphere. At least I've never felt that, and I'm not even comparing like who has the best track. It's just that atmosphere at Saratoga is like none other in horse racing.
Well, Kenny, I'll say one thing. Working 5 days a week up here all summer long. The crowds on a Wednesday are set for our normal Fox shows right down at the 8th pole, right down amongst the crowd and the real people, the real gamblers, and then they got their beer kegs out there and just having a good old time. But the fans walking through the grandstand, through the backyard, and through the grandstands. Everybody in New York, they're great fans here at Saratoga, unlike anywhere else I've ever been. It's like going back in the 60s when the crowds were huge, and everybody's got an opinion. They like their horses. They know their horses, and they like to bet on them. And it's just, to me, the best racing fans in the world show up here at Saratoga Racecourse.
I agree, and like you say, they come and they got the little kids. Well, your lovely daughter Maddie's up there. She's actually been a horse racing reporter. I've seen her work. She's very good.
Yeah, and she got to take her first trip through the Hall of Fame yesterday, and wanted to see Daddy's plaque up there. I was inducted in 1997, so she wasn't even thought back then. And we got to go through and see all the horses that are now in the Hall of Fame that I rode. And there's one wall that Serena's song, and then there was one other horse in between. But then there was Silver Charm and Silver Bullet Day, right? Their plaques right next to each other. So I had 3 of them within 4 plaques that were up there, which was pretty cool. We got some good pictures and really enjoyed ourselves.
That's some incredible memories that you've given us all. And I'm sure some fans, when you're walking around at Saratoga, still come up, because that's another thing about the New York fans or the people that drive over from Boston or wherever in that area to come over and watch races at Saratoga, they know the history of you and all the jockeys that have done well or trainers that have done well. It's fascinating to me how they know it. Just like going to a Dodgers game and somebody still wants to talk about Sandy Koufax. They know what's going on.
Yeah, every day that walk from the production trailer down to the set, I get stopped. I must be 50 times coming to and from. People wanting to talk about horses from this year, that year, who's the best, and people waiting off the set for when the show's over with, wanting pictures and some autographs and stuff. And it hasn't been work. It's been an experience of a lifetime. I've got to enjoy this summer up here, working 5 days a week or getting to experience it 5 days a week and just hanging out with people and making friends. It's been great.
Do they give you advice like they did when you rode? That is another thing about them. They'll tell you how you should have ridden that race.
Oh, yeah. Well, most of it, we've got one lady, huge fan, that she shows up once a week, and she thinks she's the set producer up there. She says, you need some more lighting up here. You ought to really go with blue shirts more often because of your eyes. So I'm not getting advice about riding races. I'm getting advice how to dress and how to light the stage up there. So it's a good time.
Well, they always offer advice. The things they've said, the things I've heard like at Belmont Day or a big race up there, the thing I've heard, I go, wow, I'm glad that I don't have any family members close by hearing this.
Well,
and I'm not costing them money, They're not betting on me. So.
On Travers Day this year, everybody asking, who do you like? Who do you like? You tell them who you like. It's a code of honor, and they tell you how he cannot win and how Tacitus or Owendale or whoever, everybody had their opinion. So a lot of fun.
I'm always reminded when everybody asks who wins, my next to your great performance in Seabiscuit, which really is a great performance, by the way, friendship aside.
Thank you.
I love Let It Ride. I love that where he goes around and says, who do you like? And he marks off the one horse that nobody liked is the one he bet on and won.
Yeah.
Richard
That's
Dreyfuss.
about how it goes. That's about how it goes, too.
How's it? Yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, I was just going to say I put in a pick 5 ticket here a couple of weeks ago that Jonathan Kitchen had given me, a great handicapper, by the way, on our show, and passes out his tickets. And I've been losing all summer, so I started betting his tickets and I started winning. But in my NYRA accounts, I think I had $86 left in there, and the ticket he had given me was $88, so I'm $1 short. So I took a horse out of the last race, a horse that Rajiv Mirage was on, and I knew it could be a mistake, but my ticket wound up costing me $76, and so I had $14 left over or whatever, and I'm live to the smallest ticket's going to pay $1,200, and Mirage was in the hunt coming into the stretch, and I'm like, oh no. Yeah. And anyway, I wound up hitting for $2,500 thanks to Jonathan Kitchen, but that was sort of my let it ride that day.
It's good to have those, isn't it? The thing is, if you just have one every now and then, it keeps you going.
Oh, absolutely. And I sit up there and I'm betting dollars here, dollar tries and different things just to have a little action and have some fun, have a laugh with it, not trying to get rich or break myself either. And that's a beautiful thing about horse racing. The
one thing, I'm not going to critique the show because I'm not going to critique the show. And, you and Lafitte are great friends. And what I really liked the best outside of you and Lafitte was when they introduced the jockeys and they come through the smoke machine.
Yeah.
I like that.
We had some issues with the comms the other day, and it got lagging just a tad. But no, I think it's awesome. To showcase these guys are the best in the game, and it's never been done before. We did it for the Alabama a couple of weeks ago, and did it again for the Travers, and got a great response back from it.
I think it highlights it. Like you say, you got an individual there. You get to focus on the jockey, got to see him up close, and recognize the athletes that they are. And I don't have to tell you all the injuries and things, and still one of the great sports stories of 2013 Breeders' Cup. Boy, I hope I got that year right, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, thank goodness, because I was there. And I think when you won the Breeders' Cup, after your comeback, after you left NBC and started racing again, I thought that was still one of the best sports stories, not just racing stories, that comeback.
Well, Kenny, it was a big hill to climb, and I know a lot of people thought I was crazy, and I'm wondering what I was doing. I wouldn't have done it unless I thought that I could compete at the highest level again. And fortunately, I had a lot of support when I did come back, and was able to win. On that year in 2013 with a couple of very, very good horses, Beholder in the distaff, and then Mucho Macho Man in the Classic. And that was the one trophy that was missing off my mantle. It was on my bucket list, and when I had retired in 2005, I just accepted that wasn't meant to be, and then to be able to come back and win the Classic, that was the one that was missing that I got, and I felt pretty fulfilled with that.
Okay, you don't sit there every now and then say, I could ride one more race. I'm pretty sure.
Not anymore. No, not anymore. It's done. When I had the neck injury and everything, and doctor tells me that if I have another fall, that I'm going to be riding in a wheelchair, if not worse, and that's pretty final, and that's like getting struck by lightning, and being able to walk again, and so I'm just blessed that I had the career I had, and now able to enjoy it in a different way, and get back in the announcing booth.
Well, you're doing a great job in that, and I really like the way that you've just transitioned right back to it. Saddle to microphone to saddle, doesn't matter. Gary just takes over.
Well, I've been lucky with the people I've been involved with throughout my sport, throughout my career in both the television industry and horse racing itself.
I got to get you got to get in one more movie at least. I do miss your acting.
I miss it too, Kenny.
Really?
I really do. I miss Ronnie Jenkins in Luck. I miss Luck. I was having a great time, but you know what? Everything happens for a reason. I can honestly say if they had not canceled Luck, I would still be doing that, and I wouldn't have come back to riding in 2013 and got to experience the great things I've got to experience over the past 7 or 8 years.
If people have a chance, I know it's got to be out there on Amazon or somewhere. Get this. Because I don't know if you remember me calling you. I called you after that first episode of Luck. I didn't recognize you for the first 30 seconds. I mean, I knew who you were.
Right.
But it was so good. You were so into that character, and it was really compelling to watch that. I don't know how you did that, but I guess that's why they call it acting.
Well, I was surrounded by a lot of great actors and great friends, human beings. Made a lot of great friends and memories that I'll never forget. And hopefully I'll get another opportunity at some point.
Well, Gary, I appreciate your time. I know you got all kinds of family up there and family stuff to do today, and thanks for hanging out with me for a while here.
Kenny, I always enjoy it, and look forward to our next talk.
Well, we did miss the dogs on the Skype this time. I will say that, but otherwise...
They're waiting patiently in California. Angie and Maddie are returning home today, and leaving me up here in Saratoga for another week, and then I'm taking a cross country road trip with my big brother Scott. We haven't had a road trip since I was 17. He was 19, so this is going to be one for the ages.
I wish I had a camera on that one. I'd love to tour that with you.
We'll be taking some videos and stuff, posting this trip on Twitter so people can follow along with us.
Okay. I will follow Gary Stevens anyway, but especially on that. Gary, thanks for your time, pal. I really appreciate it.
All right, Kenny. Thank you.
All right. Gary Stevens, a great jockey, the Fox analyst right now. He's one of the best in the business. Stay with us. More coming up on the Horse Racing Show.